Okay, so good evening. So how many of you sitting with agents already? Just watch the left to the right, you have an agent. So, okay, all right. So what we will do is, this talk is about, I don't know whether coding, design and architecture has been extensively covered, but I'll try to cover because I didn't attend the previous sessions. I was with Google Maps, now I moved to Google Cloud. I thought that will be a lesser speed, but it is almost double the speed. So, I'm not getting time because you're on the forefront of things, wanted to do a lot of things. It becomes harder. So what we will do today is a bit of what I call model is equal to software, right? So I'll tell you why. And I think agentic architecture is a crux of it. That's something I think many of the speakers touched upon. I think Vinod also touched upon in a greater detail. But I'm going to cover in a way that how an architect can see that, right? The third one is architecture, landscape, and entropy. So entropy is nothing but the undeterministic or the problem with machine learning people is they're all very probabilistic people. So my son was asking me how far I will reach. I mean, he's going to the airport. I said your probability will be 0.7 by this time or 0.8 by this time. So you become very probability oriented, not a very deterministic oriented person, right? So the entropy is on the probability or what value it is going to give. Last but not least is on the skill side. I think what are the things that you need to look at the North Star, because many of your architects or practicing architects, developers, senior developers, leads, what are the North Star that you'd like to focus on? And probably 10 minutes for questions. I'll try to see if we can finish it. The timer is ticking already. So let me try to finish it on time. So next one is guess the trend. It's a quiz. What is this? Somebody said vibe coding. So how many of you vibe code here? 3, 4, 5, 6. Can be more. You can try. It's a good one. Try Replit or few of these companies. I think it's good to try. At least I tried Replit. I'll show you what I've done. Next one, what is this? What is the term for this, basically? I heard that somebody said the answer. It's not agentic AI. So thought, action, and observation, the answer is there itself in one of the things. Yeah, I think somebody said react. So it is reason and act, right? So you have a thought and then you have an action. That's what agent does. You have an observation as well. Now, this is a slide taken from, or rather a thought taken from a gentleman named Andrej Karpathy. You would have heard about him, or some of these people. So I think the way he put it is beautifully in a 3 evolution. The first one is software, very traditionally sit in front of a terminal and code, right? So Fortran, C++, Python, whatnot, right? So that's a 1940s, wherever you have seen traditionally. The second one entered software 2.0, which is, there is a huge breakthrough that happened using AlexNet and many of the neural network advances that happened. That we call it as, you give a weights and you give a program to the neural network, it programs it for you, right? And software 3.0 is where you tell a large foundation model to code for you, right? So pretty much we're in the third era, which is fascinating, but also threatening, but also I don't know how you feel. So at least I have a mixed feeling about it when I see it, right? So how many of you feel fascinating? 2, 3, 4. Okay, good. How many of you feel threatening? Yes, that's the thing. So 50% will say threatening, 50% will say fascinating, right? So we are in that era, right? So your sense is normal. Your sense is actually, I would say, it relates to everybody in the industry at this point of time. So this bit, in my opinion, taking over many of the things. So that's something that we'll talk about. So before I go to the next one, I want to show you something. Let me see if it plays. So this is basically the product we are working on. So that means my team is working on. It's called Gemini Cloud Assist. So if you are an architect, you'll get, if you're a cloud operator, you'll get assistance at every step. I'll let the video play and I'll talk about it. So watch the prompt. So I'm asking the prompt to create an app for me. So it created an app, GCP infrastructure, with your BigQuery, SQL, whatever you want. Now I'll follow up. This is a multi-turn conversation. I would like, as a data scientist, I'd like to serve this to my users after my analysis. So it added a Cloud Run, which is another serving layer. So now you're done with it. This is your architecture diagram, a real infrastructure diagram. Now you want to edit it. So you go and edit. You give a name to your template. Here we go. He didn't write a single line of code. How many of you use Terraform to write the code? Terraform for infrastructure. So it generates it automatically. So this is right there in the system today. And the problem with this, or rather, challenge with this is that not every customer will use it in the current form, but we have to templatize it. So simple natural language creates infrastructure for you. And Gemini behind the scene, right? So Gemini understands the prompt that you're a data scientist. And think of a situation where you want to convert into an architecture document or a template, right? This is one. This is actually a standard enterprise scenario where you can play around. Today it's available, you can play around. The next one is even more scary. So this is called your vibe coding. So I not typed the prompt. Here it says, I would like to create a patient health record using vibe coding. And it's already created. I'm just showing that replay for you. As you can see here, this is in Replit, by the way. So it creates a nice app for you, deploys a preview URL, provision system for you, and you can even say that change this to a mobile-friendly architecture, so on and so forth, right? So let me play it. So I say this is good, but change the style. Then I say I'd like to convert into a mobile app. It automatically converts it for me, etc. And all the source code that you see here all generated by Replit or vibe coding. So if you try it, it's really fascinating. I think it took only 30 minutes for me to create a health tracker app. When I built it in 2007, I was very passionate about healthcare. So I thought I'll build it. So I had a freelancer with a 3-member team to do it for me. Now I can do it in 30 minutes. Any business analysts here? Nobody. Okay, so go and talk to the business analyst with this. They'll say that it takes 30 minutes. You're giving me an estimate of 3 weeks. So that's the reality. Right? So, yeah, 3 Swiss, 3 people, 3 months. Then after that, estimate to production. This is only for prototype, right? So you see the rapid prototyping that is going on, right? And it does pretty good job, right? And I think there is a tool, another software called Cursor, which you may be knowing. It has hit annual recurring revenue of 100 million within a span of 6 to 8 months, right? So, and I think Vinod touched upon this very well. The people who are all on demand are all the fundamental science people. So which discipline has the maximum AI researchers today? Any guesses? Maths is obvious, sir. Somebody said physics. Yes, physics. People who have done physics, I read about it, and I said that why physics, sir? Physics is the most complex thing which you can think, because there is a realization of your science to a math, right? And equations, you need to still be a mathematician to solve physics problem. So apparently, the talent is in demand. So my friend was telling me that, of course, you hear news about AI talent getting poached and all of them. So the most 2 things that are in demand is researchers, another is GPU. Nothing in between. Nothing in between. So can we replicate that? Is it a moat? Yeah, if you have a good researcher. How many of you know Mira Murati, the OpenAI CTO? So I think she raised, or her company raised, without writing a single line of code, 100 million or something. Without writing a single line of code. Only thing is she had a good team. So the people believe that the researchers will do a good job. Right? So moving on, so I think I just want to give a little bit of a circa of how we have come a long way. We come a very long way, actually. So at least I've seen all the waves. Probably some of you in the room have seen that as well. Many of you would have started in some time frame. The first time frame is where we had 2000 to 2007 is the dawn of web, where everybody was saying web is the thing. And yeah, of course, it created so much of economy for us. Entire architectures, workflow systems, service-oriented architecture. The second one is mobile. Some of you may be very close to mobile because many companies made bold statement that mobile is the thing, I'll retire all my desktops. right? So I think Flipkart or someone who said that, say that all our apps will be in desktop, sorry, mobile. I won't go mobile first, right? So this is what you have heard. The third one is again a revolution again, 2010 onwards, cloud and microservices. I think many of us are used to this era, right? Or rather lived in that era, or living in this era. The last one is, or the current one, and this is not the last one, it will be last one will be there, AGI and few things, agentic, right? So why it is different, right? Think of an architect. You would have been told by your seniors that write stateless services. How many of you say when somebody reviews it, this is not stateless, this has to be done this way, right? First you write that. Now you go and tell your people to write stateful. Why? Because you're trying to mimic human brain, right? So the goal of any AI system is to act like a human, right? A Turing test, right? So, so when I was writing this, some of these tools, the question I asked myself was, can this pass the Turing test? Can it design like an architect today? Can it design like what a real human will do, right? So the context and state. The second one is, I think Vinod touched upon it as well, autonomy, right? We can tell an agent what to do, what not to do. So in agent space today, in the last 6 months, can you guess how many papers has been published? Research papers I'm talking about. Forget about podcasts, blogs. Those are all separate, okay? How many papers published in the last 6 months? 1 million is too much. I think then all of us would have published. I'm talking about reputed conferences. It's like around 3,000 odd. So somebody shared a LinkedIn post. I try to read LinkedIn and then be active on it. They said 20 odd posts on agentic architecture and all of them. I said 20, and I cannot get time to read it. I can read only the abstract, being a researcher. Then think of 3,000. So this is real, right? So if some of the things that is coming in, it's an hype, please come out of that, because nobody researches for a hype. Nobody researches for a hype. Nobody publishes paper for a hype. So the autonomy in agency is real. It is like you will see it in things coming up. The third one is what we call it as memory, tooling, RAG, and all of them. So there is a huge amount of tooling infrastructure that is evolving around this. I think you may be heard of MCP server. MCP is the thing. People have written or spoken about it, right? So I think A2A was the agentic part, which Google has given it to Linux Foundation, right? And MCP is from Anthropic, right? So it used to be FANG. Now we have a new term. What is that new term? Anybody heard? There used to be FANG companies. Now we have one more, or other new terms, Mango. OpenAI, Anthropic, NVIDIA, Meta, or Microsoft, I don't know, but Google. So pretty much it's moved to Mango. So generation of companies coming in this space is unprecedented as well. So you can see this as an evolution, right? The reason I wanted to motivate you to think through as an evolution is we can always learn and then deal with it, right? Because a lot of changes happened in the last 25 years, and it's very hard to kind of put this in a capsule, and then if you lived in that era, you will come to know, because I thought that I learned Java, and now I tell people that my utility is last 2-3 years. So one of my architects or somebody came from the US and they said that, oh, ask this guy, he knows reinforcement learning. I said, the form of reinforcement learning I learned is no longer reinforcement learning. So people do a lot of stuff on it. So it is like what got us here will not get us there, right? So that's kind of a feeling that you get. And that's a good learning, right? Basically, we keep us grounded and all of them, right? Now the agent is at the center of things. We have multi-type agents, so people talked about agents a lot, so I'm not going to spend a lot of time, but agent does few things. It has the environment tooling, and it has, the next part is more critical, which I'll come to that. You have multi-agent and few things. I just want to ask people who are architects here, is this the old wine in a new bottle? If somebody is telling you this is workflow, like Vinod mentioned, this is that, please don't accept that. This is not old wine in a new bottle. We are talking about what we call it as LLM OS. LLM is an operating system now, to an extent possible, right? So I'm not here to kind of give a scaremongering, but if an operating system can do tasks for you, or rather it is supposed to do tasks for you, LLM can do pretty much everything. It has an orchestration layer, it has a shared memory, it has a connect to human in the loop and all of them, right? And you have a marketplace and all. So this is definitely not an old wine in a new bottle. So I see some posts and thought process saying that, oh, we learned this way, now this way. But now this is reimagined in a different way altogether, right? So agent at the center of the things, and there is an LLM operating system. That is where the world is moving towards. So if you have a big LLM, it's not a pitch as well, but you can look at all the players who are all using LLMs and non-LLMs. You see the significant difference or the leapfrogging that we are thinking about. And as I mentioned, it is mimicking the brain. So we all have what we call as procedural memory, how to drive a car, semantic memory, know about how you interpret things in a language. Episodic memory, you remember an episode, how it happens. I think there is a working memory. So you have pretty much all the memories getting replicated as well. So pretty much think of your brain our human brain is in action, like an agent in a system. For this, we as architects, or architects in the room, need to think very differently than what it is today. That's the pitch. So that means you're trying to mimic a behavior, you're trying to design a system which is like human, and I think there are talks about ethics, responsibility, etc. That's where the crux of it. The crux of agent architecture is the intelligence and how this is built around it. That's very important for us to understand. And again, some of these are from research materials and a lot of things. As I said, I read papers to find out, but I don't know how many papers to read also. Even when you go to Scholar, you have so many papers to read. Then a great thing about MCP protocol, I think many of you would have talked about MCP protocol. It's not like any other server. Today you register a tool, register some service, it automatically does it for you. Meaning you say that I want a natural language saying that I want to book a flight, then a hotel, then after that I want to book a holiday place or I want to go for an event. You just do a plug and play. I think some of the simplifications is around USB-C kind of a thing, which you all heard, right? I mean, you can plug anything. But a natural language makes it easier for you to take that service. So you still can host all your services which are there in your enterprise and put MCP in the middle and it will scale for you, right? So I think thinking about scale, you're talking about billion users, whatever, right? That is pretty much important to understand. You have the architecture where MCP drives it. So with MCP, you have a MCP client or a host, then you have things like tooling, memory, as well as all the prompts, right? Now prompts also going into something called spec. I learned it yesterday, so it is not like that easy. So prompt is something like you can do a prompt template and keep it, but spec is something more of you give an agent a goal and you tell what is the acting role for that agent. Then you give a bounded context, constraints, and decision making. Right? Almost you're telling to a kid what to do. Right? So I think the podcast, some of them it's like a toddler with all the tools right now. So pretty much you can bound the context and how you do it. So that is becoming emerging. Now as architects, version 0.5 is ABCD, then version 1 is EFGH, and then it goes on. I think how many of you would have remembered what system you started and where you ended up? Right? If you clearly remember, I think I wanted to kind of probably take LLM knowledge from you because it's very hard to track because systems moves fast, because business move fast, right? I think asymmetry is the side effect of it or a trade-off, right? Asymmetry comes in because end of the day it's all costs, right? And then also still in the enterprise world, you have cloud, mobile, web systems. So your dilemma today, even you're recommending to your customers, what do you want to really tell? So one of the questions I usually ask is that last year it was LLM something, now it is agent, what else next, right? I mean, so it's changing actually. So I think this is my third year in this conference, but every time it's changing. So that's the reason I thought change is a constant. No, there's no doubt. Ask Vishnu Priya. I mean, I was just started with this talk as ML, then went to something on Gen AI. Now it's agent, right? So, and all happened in the span of 3 years. So I thought, okay, let me use this as a talk. Change is the only constant, right? So, and it's philosophical also. I like Bhagavad Gita a lot, so that way. So now as an architect, obviously all of you will have FOMO. I'm sure all of your RFPs will say, where is agentic AI? So without that, they will shortlist somebody else. So you have an agentic template. So the next one is regulations. I think, many of you know EU and other places, there are a lot of regulations. Models are not released. Rules are rules, right? I mean, compliance, safety, and all of them. So tend to slow down, right? I mean, it's pretty much regulations taking over. I think I hope some of the topics that are talked, everybody's promised land is AI agents, and you go there, there's a data where you fall down. So the promised land is not realized because you don't have any land first. Right? So last but not least is, you keep telling your customers and IT ops, whoever it is, I think you talked about ML ops, AI ops, this is done, upgrade. And I think you're not up to date. And you're missing out. All right, so these are the challenges. Of course, these are real world challenges, right? It's not like you're going to stay constant with that. So please be aware of this. And it's a balancing act, and then it's a trade-off. And I think I can exactly envision if I'm sitting as a participant in this conference, I'll be thinking, what should I do? Because I got an agent overload. When I go back, my boss will ask me, tell me the next agentic proposal. Because he went to this digital archive conclave, I'm expecting you to be transformed. All right, that's the expectation, right? So again, one philosophy of Google which I like and love is think about the user. So first one is, I pretend that I wrote all this email. The other guy also thinks that I read all the email. So there is a, what do you call, elaboration and a summarization. So it's a double-edged sword. So please be aware of your user. Please be aware of your customer. So you cannot be like serving on one side, other side. You do the thing, right? So it's funny meme, right? So I like memes. And, I was searching for it. So I think I'm going to close the talk and take up questions. So I think what should I tell? I was just thinking, the new North Star is deliver with care. So C for use the companion, which is AI. It's your companion. Please don't discount. Use it and be the champion in your organization. This again for your, as I said, pitch deck tomorrow. So when you go back and people say, what's your takeaway? So you should tell that, first, I'm going to be a companion. So boss, please give me Gen AI tools now. So I'll start. So you end up paying for the tokens. So next is adapt fast. So basically, we are in a world where code to test is becoming prompt to eval. Right? So what I mean to say is, you've been coding and testing. Now it's a change from prompting to evaluation. Right? So it's very simple. And models are every quarter, by the way. I forgot, I lost the memory of models, by the way. I don't even know which model is getting released where. And if models can release every quarter, why not software? So when you write your RFI or proposal, please ensure that the evolution is much faster than the models. Else, because model is going to anyway get trained, then after that next year we come to the conference, I'll do another change. So skills, I think Vinod touched upon the skills. It's very, very important that you take this as an upskilling opportunity. That's very important. Upskilling is a critical one. And evolve because data decisions autonomy. So if you're a data scientist or a ML architect or having the passion towards data. And last but not least, productivity improvement and also quality. That's a very important topic. I can go deep dive into it, but quality is one of the important topics. People talked about hallucination and all of them, but don't be dismissive because you bought a tool, you're supposed to make it work. You don't write RFP and then after that go away. So you end up evaluating. The real work starts after buying. Right, so I used to see a movie where this guy will go to a bank and then they'll say, buy a loan, right? And then they'll say, sir, so many times I'm walking. He said, after I give a loan, I'll be walking behind you. So you buy a Gen AI tool, you have to make the value. It is very important. You cannot give up. You have to use evals. You have to have a strong sense of how you want to measure data, measure success, measure metrics. That's going to be important. I'll close with this. It's a very powerful image, and I will lead that in silence. Thank you. Questions? We'll be happy to take any couple of questions, anything about any of the things that we are working on. Of course, IP is there, but I'll tell my perspective on my research, what I work on. So, yes, sir.
Hi, Hari. Great presentation. This is Bala here. So the question I have is more in terms of career and learning perspective, right? So if you have to lay out a CNCF kind of landscape on the AI, because it's an ocean in itself. So various architects coming from different background, could be application architect, integration and infrastructure. What would be the natural evolution in terms of, let's say, if someone were to play application architect today, right, and then within this AI landscape, right, where should they be? Because obviously they can't be everywhere. And then what should be the focus? How does the swim lane look like from their learning and then mastering that perspective?
Yeah, I think that's a good question. So I think if I go back to my previous one, I think the tools are coming up. So for example, if you take IntelliJ and some of the things that you're using, right, Code Assist. How many of you use Code Assistant in your enterprise today? Very few or some, I think. It's going to become a kind of a indispensable entity because the timing that you save on Code Assistant is like almost 3-4 hours in a week easily. And then there are talks which says that you cannot be a author. LLM generates the code for you, but you need to be a reviewer for that. So reviewing skills become very critical. So you'll move towards critical thinking, move towards enabling the companion journey. That's a skill that you need to learn. Since these models are too much, for example, there are so many things getting introduced every day, like CLI mode and many of the things. Tried it out, basically, and try to create a value to your enterprise. Even internal productivity, your own teams. If you can champion them with a creative mindset, then probably people will rally behind you because, in my opinion, coding won't go away. If nobody asks this question on fear, it won't go away. But things will become more messier because AI is generating the code. You have to have grounding evaluation. So focus on evaluation and focus on generating with certain degree of knowledge and how you can be a creative champion in your team. That's what I would suggest. Diversity of roles and all of them, obviously certain roles will be automated and all of them, that's there. But still the coding and you're responsible for the system. You're not responsible for the AI. So you still need human in the loop and many of the things to be done. So I would suggest think of creative ways of solving the problem rather than, I think only one-dimensional. So I used to talk to my colleagues and they say that in certain sense, microservices are all very deterministic. Now, if you ask me, I'll be always be probabilistic. And that's the way my mind works. And you probably need to look at putting the system, you should become a probabilistic based approach, mathematical and few things to prove, disprove, whatever. And the models will drift as well. Meaning whatever you put, it will not work in the next version. So those things also will be a big challenge. So think of some creative ways of solving the same problem. I'm sure you'll get better solutions.
Shujoy, when we saw these, right? So we saw some, then like the API fast, then the whole data fast, right? Somebody said intent fast, right? Experience fast, right? So what is the right fast for us to adopt?
I think if you ask your customers, they will say everything first. Who will say, sir? If you want to be this first, they'll say this is the first, right? So it's like asking a kid whether you need this 5-star, this chocolate or that chocolate. Kid will say everything I need. It's all about trade-offs, right? So you don't over-engineer for certain purposes, but potentially I see that it's disrupting in some of these areas like coding and all of them. So you need to think about how do you want to become more proactive about it than reactive. So the answer to that question is you need to be proactive and choose between what you have, because you cannot, let's say customers cannot eat everything, right? And then you have to tell them what is your fundamental building blocks, on top of it what you do, right? And the layers of innovation is happening there pretty much. So be proactive about it is my answer, but not necessarily everything will be solved by this thing, but looking at it, because even in ML world, many of you may heard about it, there are operations people, research people, ML engineers, then you had Gen AI people, right? So the operational people and the ML engineers are saying that LLM is boring, because LLM is just prompt, right? They are not crunching data, they are not showing code lab, collab. How many of you seen data scientists, their environment and all? By the time you look at the Python and all, you'll be like scared, saying that, oh, these guys are doing something real. But if you go them to use LLM, they will say that, what is this? I need to write a prompt template today. So that's not exciting, right? So you no need to do, for example, things like anomaly detection and everything. So you still need that. So the first is based on your proactive way of looking at it. Let's not over-engineer. You solve the problem. That's more important, right? Yeah, one last question maybe, I think others.
Ethics is important piece of AI, right? So what is the way to validate if it is ethical? If somebody says that it is ethical, right? Whether it's any model, is there any validation around it in terms of who says what from governing that model?
Do you go to Twitter or X right now? X, somebody talked about Grok. You go there. So it's your own judge, ethics and all of them. So I think it's a tough question. It's not easy. Last time when somebody asked me this question, I said we should be doing this and all of them. Responsibilities, yes, we need to do it properly. But what happens is in systems of the commercial systems, consumers and like newsfeed and all of them, I don't see any of that practiced, right? But you're all enterprise people, right? It's very important for you to put some degree of guardrails because it will come. Eventually it will come. It's not going to be escaped in any direction for that matter. Even I think many of you heard about Bharat GPT. Bharat GPT is done by India and Indian government is actively leading that effort, right? So there will be a lot of guardrails coming in. You can shut down a model also, etc. So I think, but the current state, it's not that pronounced. I think maybe due to the incentives. Today everybody is in a first mode, so it is hard, but I think it's a very complex subject. I don't have a lot of answers. That's the reason I'm saying it depends on what model you're looking at, what you're recommending, and so on and so forth. Right? So it's important for you to understand. So somebody was saying it's all becoming reward-based, Claude or something. So in the podcast I heard they started telling that now you should become 100% accurate. The Claude started deleting the tests. So I read one thing, one college wanted to improve the placement 100%, so 67 were placed, 33 were de-enrolled. Thank you.